Today, we're gonna try the rotisserie setting in our air fryer by rotisserieing up a pork roast, and we're gonna turn it into some gorgeous pulled pork sandwiches. We're gonna man our gloves because we're touching some raw meat. First thing you're gonna wanna do is trim off any extra fat that you don't want on that pork roast. Fat does mean flavor, but you know, there is a point where you don't want that much. I think we'll leave that. Let's take a look at that other side. I think there was a big chunk of silver skin right there. We're going to go ahead and get that off as well. Silver skin can be very tough. And the butcher who did this roast right here did a great job. He got most of it, but there's still just this little bit left. Absolutely gorgeous. The reason I had it setting on a paper towel is just to kind of dry it off a bit so that the seasons adhere a little bit better. I've also had it setting out for 30 minutes out of my refrigerator just to get back up to room temp before we start messing with it. So now step 2 is we're going to truss it. Truss it. That's what we're going to call it. This is just a baker's twine, I think is what it's called. You want to make sure and truss it up really tight, especially if you're putting it on a rotisserie, because rotisseries, you know, when it gets juicy, that meat's going to get a little loose. So our first piece right here, we're going to just tighten it up really tight. And don't cut this tail right here that we created because you're going to need that at the end. Loop it around your hand and loop it around the roast and pull it tight. This is my first time trussing a roast. I think it's called trussing it. And I did watch some videos and I trussed my first t-shirt this morning to practice. It was beautiful, but the t-shirt is definitely a lot less slick than meat. So now what we're gonna do is we wanna truss through the end. So you're gonna flip it over, take your string and double it back. You want twice the length to make sure you have enough. Then to make it really secure, you're gonna take it and we're gonna loop it. Oh, that's really tight. You're gonna take it and you're gonna loop it twice like that and pull it snug. And the next one, you're gonna do this all the way to the end. Flip it over and you're gonna tie it off to that piece that you had at the beginning and tie it up tight. And that is one tight little trussed up roast. Now the dry rub that we're putting on here. First thing we're gonna do is we need salt and pepper. Then we've got some onion powder, garlic powder, and of course, smoky paprika. We're just gonna mix that up with our finger. I am also gonna use mustard as my binder. It holds really well. It adds a moisture to the meat, but it doesn't add any flavor, which is surprising. You would think you would taste mustard at the end, but you really don't. And you want to make sure and coat it really, really well on all sides. Get your ends. Perfect. And our season blend, and be liberal with it. Coat it really, really well all the way around. And I find it best to do it on a tray because you know what? This is not neat. There's nothing neat about seasoning up a piece of meat. Ooh, that looks fantastic. Now the fun part. We're gonna stab it with our skewer right through the center. Okay, I think we're in. Centered. Into our air fryer we go. We are gonna go rotisserie mode. We're gonna go 360. For about 50 minutes. It's about 20 to 25 minutes per pound, and that's a 2.5 pound roast. So I'll start at 50, check it, 145 internal temp. Then we're gonna take it out, let it rest for a couple of hours, and then make some amazing pulled pork sandwiches. So we'll meet you back here when it's all done. Our pork has now been resting for 2 hours. You wanna let it go at least the 2 hours, up to 5 hours. Don't go more than 5 hours if you're gonna shred it because it might get a little harder to shred. But the first thing we gotta do is put together a barbecue sauce that we're gonna put on this amazing, amazing sandwich. Here we go. We have got ketchup, and some Worcestershire sauce, some stone ground mustard, and some honey, just regular standard honey. If you want to add a little kick to this, you could use a hot honey. We're going to mix all that up, and now let's get to shredding some pork. Look at how beautiful that turned out. It's time to cut away some strings. Nobody wants to eat a string. Another reason you want to let it rest is because it will absorb some of those juices that cooked into it while you were letting it rotisserie, and it's just really hot to handle if it has not rested. Go. I'm just gonna rip right on into it with my hands. Oh, that looks so fantastic. We're just gonna shred it up, and I'm just gonna end up just make a pile of it, and then I'm gonna add it to my barbecue sauce. I'm only gonna shred up what I need right now for my sandwich, because the rest of it, you could dice it up and add it to a really, like mac and cheese. There's so many different things you can do with this pork once it's done. You definitely do not want to do this with your bare hands. There's nothing neat about this. And I did probe it before we took it out to let it rest. And we probed it. It was about 148 when we took it out. And then as it sits and rests, it gets to about 150. And you can make this sandwich as big or as small as you like. Ooh, you know what would work really well too is if you've got, I think they make like a shreddy tool. They're like these giant Wolverine things that you put on your hands, and you can shred with that too, would work really well. I think that looks like a great amount. Into the sauce we go. Let's build a sandwich now, shall we? Oh my gosh. The smells that are coming off of between the dry rub and this barbecue sauce. This is going to be one flavorful sandwich. Oh my gosh. And messy. Definitely messy. But that's okay. Messy is not always a bad thing. Right there. There you have it. One pulled pork sandwich. Let's go ahead and cut into it. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is cooked absolutely to perfection. Oh man. All right, nothing to do but taste it. That pork is so tender. You barely have to chew. You literally, it just melts in your mouth. The flavors in that barbecue sauce, spot on. Like I said, add some hot honey if you want to make it a little spicier. I don't think it needs it. It is absolutely fantastic. It is messy, so make sure you've got some napkins, some wet wipes on hand, something like that. But as always, hit the thumbs up if you've liked this video. Description below, next to the subscribe button, is the full recipe of everything we did today. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye. Wow. Take a bite of that bad boy. Here, have some lunch.